In this video, we'll look at the Heathkit GR-38 AM clock radio. Most of my videos are about Heathkit test equipment or shortwave or amateur radio gear. Unlike those, this is a simple AM clock radio kit. While it may not seem particularly interesting, I chose to cover this in a video because it's highly representative of the low-cost kits for consumer products that Heathkit made popular with the general public who were not serious electronics hobbyists. Thanks to Heathkit's excellent manuals and innovative design, the average person could build a kit like this and produce something that was functional and attractive looking that they could be proud of. This model also seems to be somewhat rare, only having been made for a few years. Heathkit was a manufacturer of electronics in kit form. Their product line included amateur radio, test equipment, and various consumer products. By building a piece of electronics, you could save money and gain the satisfaction of having assembled it yourself. The GR-38 is a combination AM radio and clock. It has an alarm function as well as a timer outlet on the back that's controlled by the clock. The clock shows hours, minutes, and seconds and has a backlight so it can be read at night. There's a snooze button for the alarm. I'll describe the alarm and snooze functions later. It has a built-in antenna and speaker. The GR-38 was part of a series of similar radios that included the following models. The GR-28 was an AM radio with no clock. Gold in color, it sold for $24.95 in 1971. The GR-38, this radio, was an AM radio with clock. It was orange and sold for $32.95 in 1971. The GR-48 was an AM/FM radio with no clock. It was green and sold for $39.95. The GR-58 was an AM/FM radio with clock. It was blue and sold for $49.95 in 1971. All four of the models presumably shared a lot of the same parts and used the same case design, which would have allowed Heathkit to reduce costs. The GR-38 was described as being coral in color and included a matching speaker grill cloth. The user could substitute their own grill cloth if desired. The styling is typical of radios and similar consumer products in the late 1960s and early 70s. I've not been able to determine how many years it was offered. While the assembly manual is dated 1969, my 1971 Heathkit catalog lists it as new. My 1976 catalog only lists the GR-48, the AM/FM model, so it was apparently no longer being sold by that time. Because it was only offered for a few years, it's a relatively rare model. A search of completed listings on eBay only showed one unit listed in the last 3 months. In fact, I've had a couple of offers from people who wanted to buy the radio from me. That said, it's not particularly valuable or collectible. The front panel has standard volume and tuning controls with a slide rule tuning dial. A function switch has 4 positions: on, off, auto, and alarm. There's a lull to sleep knob at the top of the clock dial with markings for 0, 30, and 60. And there's a snooze button at the top of the unit. When the function switch is in the on position, the radio operates continuously. By turning the lull to sleep knob, the radio will play for up to 60 minutes and then turn off, depending on the amount that the knob is turned. With the function switch set to auto, when the selected alarm time is reached, the radio will turn on. When function is set to alarm, when the alarm time is reached, the radio will play for about 10 minutes and then the alarm buzzer will sound. The snooze button will silence the alarm for about 10 minutes each time it's pressed. When the function switch is set to auto, an AC outlet on the back will also be switched on when the alarm time is reached. This can be used to turn on lights, a coffee pot, etc. On the back is a knob for setting the clock and alarm and the switched AC outlet. There's no external antenna connection. The switched outlet and lull to sleep and snooze features make this radio a little more sophisticated and are an example of how Heathkit designs often had a little more functionality than regular consumer products. The radio is a pretty standard superhet design with a 455 kHz intermediate frequency and automatic gain control. It's all solid state with 7 transistors and 3 diodes. Most of the circuitry is on a printed circuit board. There's a built-in ferrite rod antenna. The clock movement is made by Telecron, a company, actually a division of General Electric, that was well respected for their AC-powered synchronous motor clock movements. All of the timing and outlet switching functions are performed by the clock movement. Despite being solid state, it's built somewhat like a tube radio. For example, it has a metal chassis, a big tuning capacitor, and big IF transformers. This was possibly because the larger components made it easier to assemble for a kit builder, and also because at the time many of the components were not yet available in the miniature versions that were used in later transistorized radios. It has a 3 by 5 inch oval speaker and is rated at 0.8 watts of audio output power. The radio could be aligned without any instruments using on-air signals. This was important because most builders of this type of kit would not have any test equipment. The ubiquitous Heathkit nut starter was used to spread the edge molding that holds the front panel in place. It was also used to push the clock hands onto the clock motor shaft. The kit also came with a plastic alignment tool. The manual is up to Heathkit's usual high standard of quality, including troubleshooting and circuit description sections. It's about 40 pages long and has a large fold-out schematic. Here's the radio in operation. It sounds as would be expected for a plastic case radio with a small speaker. The volume is more than adequate for filling a room.
The general situation was dictated by RGB himself, saying, hey, I'm going to go play the game.
Very much. So in 2013, 4 games in all of Major League Baseball. And he made 4 saves.
There are only a few AM radio stations left where I live, and no music, only talk radio, sports, and news stations. This unit, I'm somewhat ashamed to say, was found on the curb on garbage day. As a Heathkit, I couldn't resist rescuing it. It worked and only needed a good cleaning. It has all the original knobs and grill cloth. I later ordered a full commercial manual for it from Vintage Manuals. As you can see, it's a good quality reproduction of the original manual. I aligned the radio as per the instructions in the manual, which do not require any instruments, and then I used a signal generator and VTVM to do a more accurate alignment. The neon pilot lamp was not working. It was a little hard to get out without disassembling much of the radio, so I only got around to replacing it shortly before I prepared this video. While I believe this radio was not on the market for long, Heathkit sold basic AM radios of different types throughout the kit era, and no doubt sold thousands of them. At the time it was offered, this radio looked modern, stylish, and professional. A hallmark of most Heathkits was that the end result looked attractive and the builder could show it off proudly. While Heathkit has been out of the kit business since the early 1990s and declared bankruptcy in 2012, in the summer of 2013 they announced a restructuring with plans to return to the kit business. As I record this, they're still in stealth mode and have not yet publicly announced any detailed plans for how they may return, other than a survey on their website at heathkit.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please check out my other YouTube videos on vintage Heathkit radios and test equipment.